Love, peace, and light. um, Welcome to the channel. I hope to grow it. It might be changing to something else. I don't know, but right now it's just my video. I guess you would call it a video diary. Um, I got a lot of things going on that I can't freely speak on because they're not in fruition yet, but I would like to. So if you wander on to this channel, if you could like, subscribe, and share, that would be greatly appreciative. I would be greatly appreciative for the energy transferal. Um, this is just me on my journey. I am just on my journey. So approximately maybe 5 years ago, maybe four, give or take a year or two or half, um, I started on this thing that I thought I would like to do, and that was be who I feel I was born to be, and that's to be an encourager or a teacher of some sort. Now, the teacher I am is a teacher of unconditional love. So that is being crafted in alchemized, or however you would want to say it, within my being now. I say that to you, and you're probably like, what is she talking about? And I'm kind of like, what am I talking about? Now, within myself, there's this thing that's happening recently, as I blossom and come back to my way of being after a long and horrific marriage. It wasn't all horrific. The children that I gained out of it was worth it. They are amazing people, and they still grow to be even more amazing to this day. But that relationship went on for 25 and a half years, give or take. But apparently, I had to learn a lesson. And then, even after I learned the lesson, I still remain holding on because I was stuck in religiosity, which means you act like, feel like you doing something, but you really ain't, because it's just some bullshit you were taught to hold you down or to keep your God body in a box, so to speak. Some will understand what I just said, some won't. It's okay. Just keep working until you understand exactly where I'm coming from. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. But we're not going to force anything on anyone. So, finally, some horrific things happened hard enough and serious enough that I had to walk away from that marriage. Like, I had gone to the hospital and they were like, this is impossible. How the hell? I basically was a walking corpse. And to describe this for you, I was so tired, I couldn't get out of bed. I felt like I had to peel myself off the bed every morning. Make a long story short, I went to this phenomenal African doctor. She was a female, my first, well, not my first, but one of the most important female doctors I had ever met in my entire life. When I went to her office, she said, why are you here? And I said, well, I explained to her that I was like a size 9, 10, and my legs had ballooned up to like, I don't know, like I don't know, 14, 16 size, and I couldn't pull my pants. Well, I could pull my pants over my legs, but they would get like kind of stuck on my legs or whatever. Well, anywho, I went to her office. She convinced me to do a panel. She did a panel on me and discovered my hemoglobin was a point 0.3. Now, for those of you nurses and doctors out there, you're going to say, that's impossible. You should be dead. And that's what the intention was. Yeah. Then there's so many things that happen. But what sealed the fate of knowing exactly what happened was when my husband put a gag order on me during the divorce. My ex-husband, I should say. Now, going through these types of things, they make you feel some kind of way when it comes to the opposite sex. Like literally, this is not the first time that sort of thing has happened to me. But every dog has their day. Every penance must be paid. Everyone that seeks to hurt or harm those who have not done anything to them, or who they don't understand, or who they think they have the power to hurt or harm, will pay for their actions. They will pay for that. Now, it gave me somewhat of a complex when I was younger and growing up, and these things would happen to me because it was like, oh, jeez, these people don't like me. Like, why do so many people don't like? Why is it so many people hate me? Why is it so many people don't like me? What am I doing? What do I need to do better to not anger people so much? And I just came to the conclusion it's not me per se as the energy within me. It makes me a little nonchalant or to the fact with people. All this time I was learning the law of permanence, but I didn't know what it was. It took someone to come into my life years later, current day, to teach me the law of impermanence. A very talented, I don't want to call him a reader because he's much more than that. He's so much more than that, but that's not my business to share. I think he's figuring that out as he goes. But he taught me in the Flaming Angels, which was his first group, the law of impermanence. And at the time that he taught it, or he gave the information, I was not understanding. But then later on, I understood why it stood out to me and why I needed to understand, and understand what I needed to know, because it helped me later on with anger issues and processing my information, because somehow I was not processing the information properly. So, and then recently I discovered the spiritual purpose of relationships. Now, before, I was like everyone else. I thought it was to find true love, yada, yada, yada. You do this, blah, blah, blah. No, the spiritual purpose of relationships is to expand and grow your soul, to give your soul depth so that you can understand the universe in a deeper way, in a multi-faceted way. Like if you look or you think about I can never say this word, a crimson, or a crystal with many facets that shines many different rainbow colors on the wall, on the walls around you. Like if you held it up to the sun, all around that room, there would be prisms on the wall that shone in rainbow-listic colors. Um, is how I would describe it. So it allows you, if you will, if you think about the multiverse, right? And you think about many different scenarios that could happen in one person's life. Like if you watched uh, Marvel Comics, they covered it a little bit in one of their movies. Basically, what it allows you to do is live a multitude of lifetimes in one lifetime, is how I would describe it. So, like how some of you are aware of this lifetime, I got to see my other lifetime. Like what they don't tell you about calling your power back. When you call your power back, sometimes it instantly enacts a dark night of the soul. No one told me that. No one ever told me that. This is some ish that I had to experience on my own. And what happened was it called back a lifetime of when I discovered that my grandfather in this lifetime was my father in that lifetime. And basically, we were trying to make magic seen as it was meant to be seen, as a tool to um, learn how to go back in time, laterally in time, forward in time, whatever, however, you understand, to fix things that might have gone wrong by those of us who were overzealous, going in time, tampering with things that we should not ought to. We had to fix some of those things, or go back in time, forward in time, laterally in time, and fix some of those things that were made wrong in a multitude of different ways. We won't sit and go over all the ways that you could do something wrong in time. I'll just cover this one thing and I'll say sometimes if you were meant to go back and meet, say, your granddaughter, of which that happened to me also, or I went forward, excuse me, to meet my granddaughter. And I was very careful in telling my daughter about this occurrence because I didn't want to alter anything. So I didn't give the name and I didn't say where we live exactly. I just described the house that we ended up in and myself. My hair was all white. Whenever I see myself in the future, I see my hair being Snow White. I've always been obsessed with Snow White hair. Um, I remember when VO5 came out with this like hair for gray, and it was just, it made the gray hair less brassy, and it made it, pure as the Duran white snow, or whatever that means. But anywho, I used to use it to kind of, I was born with gray hair. Let's just start off with that. I was born with a patch of gray hair, never left. It just thinned out a little bit, like the gray got turned black, and then the some black turned more gray, and it comes in patches, which is really odd. I wanted it all over my whole head, but it decides to come in patches most times. And whenever I see myself in the future, I see myself with a head full of gray hair, like. And so, anywho, I met my granddaughter, and it was really odd because I've always been obsessed with the whole time traveling thing. And then I got so obsessed that I accidentally did some things. Um, yeah, and some of my favorite my favorite movie in current time is The Time Traveler's Wife, or something like that it's called. And pastime was I can't remember it. It was with Jane Seymour and Superman Reeves. I can't think of his first name. He played Superman and he was paralyzed or whatever. But yeah, so it was a movie done by them in this lifetime that I was just obsessed with. I remember seeing the movie. I must have been, I can't remember how old I was. I know I was really, really young and I was obsessed with the movie. So I started trying to do what he did in the movie, and that's like time period myself in my room and like set up my room just like that time period and try to go back to that time period to see what it was like or whatever. Needless to say, it didn't work at that time, or I don't think it did, and we'll leave it at that. But then a more recent movie has been one of the X-Men movies when they had to go back and forth in time because they had to fix something that happened or occurred. Now, for those of you who don't watch these movies, I'm a sci-fi fanatic because I love the X-Men. I have always loved comic books when I was a little kid and growing up. Now, when I was a little child, I went into this comic book store, and my grandfather, I was with hanging out with my grandfather. We were doing something, and he got a little busy, so he said, "Okay, you can go in this store and you can look, but don't get lost. Just let me know where you're going to be going, and if you're going to go to another store, come out and let me know." So I was like, "Okay." So I was very, very mature at a very, very young age, and my grandfather, like, it was so strange because he would call me. There were these three names he would call me. I won't share the names, but yeah. So he would call me by my name that I have now. He would call me by my name that I know was in my past, in one of my past lives. And he would call me by a name that I'd never heard before. But I think it stems from an Egyptian goddess of some sort or type. But anywho, um, I don't know why I shared that, but it must have been a reason for the madness. Anywho, this time when I went back in time, I had been talking to a friend, or he seemed like a friend at the time, and then later turned into something else. And I don't recall people's names when I don't want them in my future. It's just a me thing. But anywho, so um, I had started going and visiting these places, or voices had started visiting me. And I say voices because the voice had to travel because the body could not, because it was too far away. And I'm not going to explain that anymore. You'll either understand it or you don't. That's not for me to explain unless until I get to my next channel, which is coming soon. I feel it. I can't avoid it. I try to avoid it. I can't anymore because there are other people that are coming like me, and I'm supposed to make it a little easier for them. And I say that word people loosely. There are other goddesses coming, and they need an easier time. I said what I said. But anyway. So, in this other life, where my grandfather now was my father then, I adored my father. I adored my family, and they adored me. But I adored my love, the love of my life. I was in love with him. I was enamored with him from first meeting. Which is odd to say because I've never believed in that shit. Honestly, never. In this lifetime, anyway. So, anywho, in the past life, I meet him, I lay eyes on him. He's a professor in a school, in a very special school, in a school. In this timeline, they had magic schools, and he was a teacher in the school. Um, he was several years older than me, but upon first meeting, I just simply fell in love with him. And I just was so enamored with him. And I hung on his every word. And he felt the same, but he felt like he couldn't act on it because of his position. And I understand. Eventually, I won him over. We get married, yada, yada, yada. Have two beautiful children. And we're supposed to live happily ever after, but something happened. In that past life, I had a karmic who was obsessed with me and didn't like to hear the word no. Now, some people will think, oh, you must have been unkind to him in some way. No, I wasn't unkind to him. Karmics are crazy as fuck. And most of them are sadistic and just not normal. They're detached in some ways from true life. It's crazy how detached they are from true life. Now, these karmics show up over the lifetimes and wreak havoc on you in one way or another. It seems for me, pain helps me grow or expand somehow. I don't know why, because I would much rather do without it, but apparently I get complacent when things are good in my life. And I like to nestle down right there and hunker down and stay there. But I have to keep moving because I have somewhere to be and I'm